Welcome back to Fantasy Football by Committee, powered by Flurry Sports. It can be tough to win a fantasy league on your own, but at FFBC, we will work together to bring home the hardware. Hosted by Zach Bruner and the rest of the Flurry Sports crew, we will give top-level analysis, answer your questions, and, well, go off on other tangents.
That was after I tried to get ChatGPT to admit that 9/11 was an inside job, but it stood firm. It gave quite a few solid points that it was true.
Welcome to Fantasy Football by Committee. The show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, happy Monday, everybody. How is it going? Welcome back to Fantasy Football by Committee. Welcome to almost week 11 of the fantasy football season. We still have Monday Night Football, obviously. I can see quite a few matchups coming down to tonight with the Bills and Broncos. I have one in particular. I have Gabe Davis and Jerry Jeudy. They need to combine to score about 11 PPR points. And while that seems like it's a lock with those players, certainly not. So best of luck to everybody whose matchups are still up in the air. But today, this morning, as we are doing pretty much every single Monday morning at this point going forward, if it's not Monday morning, it'll be Tuesday morning. Make sure to subscribe to the Flurry Sports YouTube channel in the community tab there. I'll let you know if it's not Monday morning. But we're talking about the waiver wire. Fantasy football waiver wire. We're talking about fantasy football trades, because obviously that trade deadline for fantasy football is creeping ever closer. Some leagues, I think, are starting to have it this week. I feel like that's limiting your fun. That would really suck if it was this week for you. But if it is, I'm sorry. I'm here to answer some of your questions. You can also drop questions in the Fantasy Football by Committee Facebook group. Go to Facebook, just type in Fantasy Football by Committee, or just type it in Google. It should pop up. Ask any and all questions there to myself, any of the hosts you've seen on the show, or anybody else in the community. Obviously, you can also answer people's questions as well. You can ask questions anonymously so your league mates don't find out where you're getting advice from. You can do that. That's super fun. But it's definitely a great group over there. If you're an aspiring fantasy analyst, definitely go in there and you can drop your articles in there if you would like, answer people's questions. Make a name for yourself. Let's grow the community over there. Fantasy Football by Committee on Facebook. But yes, going over trade questions by you guys. So drop them in chat, drop them in the comments afterwards. We'll certainly answer your questions, but also going over, as we do every week, the top trending players over on Sleeper Fantasy, some of the top waiver wire pickups, etc. I feel like it's a pretty weak week. Different spellings there. It's not the most exciting week for the waiver wire. I feel like almost all of the names I wrote down are players that we talked about last week. Almost all of them are players we talked about in last week's waiver wire show. A couple players we talked about in the ranking show, which we do every single Wednesday night as well. So is what it is. If you're late to the party, no worries, jump aboard here. But we'll just start with the most trending player over on Sleeper Fantasy. And again, if you have questions, drop them in chat and we will pause and answer along the way. But the most trending player over on Sleeper Fantasy, the most picked up player over the past 24 hours is Noah Brown of the Houston Texans. Last week, we had a video on his channel saying there's one reason to pick up Noah Brown. There's one reason, and that is you are betting that Robert Woods misses another week, because you need one of the receivers for Houston to miss in order for Noah Brown to continue his hot streak. Unfortunately, Robert Woods came back. However, Nico Collins missed. That meant Noah Brown still got to play, I believe, around 75% of the snaps. He went off. 172 yards on 7 catches, back-to-back weeks of over 150 receiving yards. Still owned in only 36% of Sleeper Fantasy leagues, which means I assume fewer than that over on Yahoo and ESPN. They're usually late to the party over there. Sharper players are pretty much always playing on sleeper. But yeah, so Noah Brown, like, he's not a young guy, right? He's not old by any means. What is he? 27? Like, we kind of know what he is, but he's certainly younger than Robert Woods. I say that to say, once everybody is healthy, like, we're not going to get this. However, I feel like he's done enough to warrant having a larger role than he had prior, right? I mean, he wasn't playing, so he should have a decent role now. But I mean, Nico Collins is still the wide receiver 1. Tank Dell is still operating in his role. Like, no one's going to move him from that role. And then it feels like Robert Woods and Noah Brown would split. You're not going to completely rule Robert Woods out. That makes no sense. And I don't think you would completely rule Noah Brown out, given what he has done. So going forward, once everyone's healthy, it kind of feels like Noah Brown and Robert Woods are both going to be, inconsistent at best, unfortunately. I mean, again, I'm going to say the same thing this week as I said last week. You're picking up Noah Brown with the hope, with the, you're betting on one of the Houston receivers to miss. Maybe Nico Collins misses another game. I think it was just a calf injury, so I don't think that's going to be the case. Maybe Robert Woods tweaks something in practice. Who knows? But if one of those Houston receivers misses, not Tank Dell, I don't think his role would really go up with Tank Dell out. But if Collins or Woods miss a game, it certainly seems like Noah Brown's a must start. But if both of those two guys are healthy, I'm going to put Noah Brown in that wide receiver 4 territory at the current moment. He's done enough, though, to pick up and wait and see what the positions, what the roles, what everything, the snap counts shake out to once everyone's healthy. I think that makes sense with Noah Brown. I think he's earned that. He's been good enough for 3 straight weeks in that expanded role. But again, he's the most picked up player. And would I be blowing my fab on him? No. Would I be using my priority waiver claim on him? No, I wouldn't be doing that either. Just because I think they are all healthy next week. I think it's going to be, a dip in production. The matchups look good, though. Cardinals, Jaguars, Broncos. Then he has the Jets. But then it's Tennessee, Cleveland, Tennessee. So pick him up, wait and see. That is okay, but he's not my priority whatsoever. Number 2, most trending player. This makes a lot of sense, obviously. I'm sure he was unowned, roughly. Ty Chandler. We saw Cam Akers go down. So Alexander Madison took full control of the backfield. Some people who had the roster flexibility on their bench picked up Ty Chandler as a handcuff to Madison before this past week, just to say, if Madison goes down, then Chandler should be the next guy up. That's exactly what happened. Alexander Madison leaves the game with a concussion. And Ty Chandler, second-year guy out of North Carolina, 15 carries. He didn't do much with them. The matchup wasn't great. New Orleans is pretty good up front. But 15 carries, 43 yards, or 45 yards, sorry, with a touchdown. I don't think the Vikings are going to go out and get anybody else. And I say that to say, if Madison misses this week, which, it feels like when players are getting a concussion this year, that protocol is taking a little more than a week to get through, which I think is a good thing. It's taking a little bit longer this year compared to some other years. So Madison certainly could be out this week, and Ty Chandler would get to play the Broncos, which is awesome. Like, the Broncos obviously have been beaten on the ground time and time again this season. And Ty Chandler, I mean, they're going to activate somebody else and maybe somebody eats into the snaps a little bit. But he dominated. Like, 15 carries, that's a lot. He got a touchdown. That's great to see. He's not the biggest guy, but he still scored a touchdown. Like, I like it all. Is this more than a 1 week answer for you? Probably not. But he does have the Broncos. He has the Bears, then a bye week. That's important. That's really important, because if Madison's not 100% going into week 12, like, the Vikings get to play the Bears and then have a bye week. So there is a chance that you do get 2 weeks of Ty Chandler because of the way the Vikings schedule works out there. And that would be fantastic at this point in the season. If you can pick up a starter at the running back position, not just a starter, but someone dominating snaps at this point in the season, that's massive. So if I'm looking at Noah Brown and I'm looking at Ty Chandler on the waiver wire, to me, Ty Chandler is pretty clearly the guy I would rather pick up. Now, you may be fine at running back and you're desperate at wide receiver, obviously case-by-case basis, but talk about trade deadline. You might be able to pick up Ty Chandler and flip him immediately for something relatively valuable, pair him with one of your players and upgrade that player. Ty Chandler could certainly be someone you could pick up and immediately trade. However, I mean, like I said, if you get 2 weeks of starting out of Ty Chandler, and those 2 weeks are against the Broncos and the Bears have been pretty good against the run, I admit that, but there's no doubt the Vikings should be in scoring position relatively often against the Bears, so which is great. You know, all you need is a touchdown, as Ty Chandler showed last week. Hey, like, he's my number one pickup. I don't know about you. You know, positional need aside, he's my number one pickup, and that's over the number 3 running back who I talked about last week got shit, or number 3 player I got shit for, Keaton Mitchell. I'd rather pick up Ty Chandler right now, I'll tell you that much. But we'll get to him in a second, because Luke's got a question. If Nico Collins can't play in week 11, is Noah Brown someone I could trust? I think so. If Nico Collins is out, or if Robert Woods is out, I think Noah Brown has become a must start. If those two are active, I just talked about this. So you came in at the tail end of it, but if both of those two are active, I think Robert Woods and Noah Brown sort of split snaps for that other role, which makes them both inconsistent at best, which I don't really like. But if Nico Collins is out, or if Robert Woods is out, if one of those two guys eliminate themselves from the conversation, Noah Brown is proving that he can beat the weaker coverage. He can beat defense. I mean, most of all, I guess I should say, CJ Stroud in this offense as a whole trusts Noah Brown. So, I mean, back-to-back weeks of over 150 yards, maybe the matchup had a little bit to do with it, but I think you can trust him. I think if that opportunity is still there for him, start him until he proves you wrong. You know, there's very few things that we can count on at this point in the season, it feels like, in fantasy this year. And that's one of the things that keeps proving itself. So I would start him. Let's talk about Keaton Mitchell. I got a lot of shit last week because I said I wouldn't really pick up Keaton Mitchell in a redraft league. It didn't really make a lot of sense to me unless it's a 16-team league. Love his talent. Like, he's a great player. Said this time and time again. Said he was already on my dynasty roster before that. Said I even had him in Madden on my franchise roster. I love Keaton Mitchell. He is not someone who came out of the blue for me. That's why maybe some of these fantasy analysts were taken by surprise. They're like, oh my God, who's this guy? He's so good. We got to play him. Like, he's been on my radar. He's been on your guys' radar because you've been listening to me, watching the show, listening to the show. But Keaton Mitchell explodes, right, in that blowout. 138 yards. I understand he got some carries in the second quarter, whatever. He didn't do anything until it was a blowout, and he still didn't have that many snaps, right? 18% of the snaps, who gives a fuck? I said I'm not really playing him. I said, you know, he's probably a 5-touch guy. And then I have people sliding into my DMs after his performance this week. What do you think about Keaton Mitchell now? And I'll tell you, I overestimated his role. I said he was going to get 5 touches. He got 4. You know, if he can continue to average 30 yards per touch, you know, I'll eat my words. But 3 carries for 38 yards, or 3 carries for 34 yards and a touchdown, a catch for 32 yards. Again, he looked good out there. But what's his role? His role's not very big. He's not the early down guy. He's not the short yardage guy. He's not the 2-minute guy. So I don't know what he is. I'm not sure what you're picking him up for. He's a handcuff. If he's worth it as a handcuff on your team, sure. And will his role grow? Probably. Why wouldn't it? Going into the end of the season, the Ravens, if they can pick up a win this next week, especially over the Bengals, that's obviously a massive, massive, massive game in terms of the division. If they can pick up that win and then can mix in people the rest of the way to keep people fresh, sure, Keaton Mitchell may have a relatively not big role. Like he's going to have a larger role, but then also, so you're picking him up. He doesn't have a big role whatsoever. 4 touches this past week. Congratulations. He has a tougher matchup against the Bengals. Then he has an okay matchup against the Chargers. And then he has a bye week in week 13. So you're already sitting him again. I can't imagine you're starting him now anyway. He's a handcuff. That's fine. If you have room on your bench for a handcuff, by all means, go ahead. I think there's a better handcuff out there I'll talk about maybe a little bit later. But love Keaton Mitchell. Not sure if he belongs on your redraft league roster. He's owned in 49% of rosters on Sleeper Fantasy. Maybe go look, but I don't think you need to freak out. I certainly don't think you need to overbid. Do what you got to do, but I'm personally avoiding Keaton Mitchell in redraft. I'm fine. I'm fine letting somebody else pick him up and waste a roster spot at this point. Go Bills in desperate need of a quarterback. Rest of season Carr cost me this week. I have Fields. Do I pick up Wilson, Watson, Baker, or Love? Okay. Obviously, Carr, I think it was called concussion and a shoulder injury, avoided serious injury, but, concussion and a shoulder after already having a shoulder injury, that seems serious enough. I guess not rest of season, but whatever. Regardless, you need a replacement. It seems like Justin Fields should come back this week. Who the Bears play this week? Or are they on bye? I should be looking at bye weeks too. Let me look at the Bears schedule. They have Detroit, Minnesota, then a bye. Will the Bears hold Fields out until that bye? I don't think so. I think he comes back this week, so I think you'll be fine. If Fields is healthy, you're playing him over anyone you can pick him out. Anyone you can pick up. I don't know what I just said, but you're playing him over anyone you can pick up right now. I'm not doing Jordan Love. I'm probably going Watson or Wilson. Let me look at their schedules really quick. I thought Watson did some good things in the game against the Ravens. Certainly a tough matchup. He looked actually pretty good. Watson's got Steelers, Broncos, Rams, Jags, Bears, and Texans. Pretty good schedule there, I should say. Little ankle injury. I'm not nervous whatsoever, by the way. Came back. He looked fine. Obviously, Russ plays tonight, so if he, looks like absolute dog shit, then I'm avoiding him. But Bills tonight. Then he's got the Vikings, the Browns, the Texans, the Chargers, the Lions. Not a bad schedule either, minus Cleveland. I'm probably going Watson, though. And again, when Fields is healthy, I'm playing Fields over Watson because that rushing floor, essentially. But yeah, I'm fine with that. Otherwise, other quarterbacks that could be out there, you honestly, I think you could do worse than Josh Dobbs right now. Let's talk about him. Like, I like Josh Dobbs. I said last week he is the perfect bye week fill in the rest of the way. I would trust him as my quarterback 2 in a 2-quarterback league. He's got that rushing floor. People keep underestimating his rushing for whatever reason. It seems stupid. I think that's done now after this week. I don't think people will underestimate that anymore. But I think his rushing gives him a good floor. His weapons around him are good. He looked good this week. Now add in Justin Jefferson to that as well. I like Josh Dobbs quite a bit. But I had a bet on him. They boosted a line for Josh Dobbs this week. It was over 200 passing yards and over 25 rushing yards was boosted to plus 300. It made no sense whatsoever. Fucking hammer it. And he did good. Surprise, surprise. He did that. But Vikings schedule really quick. I just talked about it with Chandler, obviously, but he's got the Broncos next week. Certainly not afraid of that. He's got the Bears after that. Not afraid. Then a bye. That sucks. But then Raiders, not afraid of that. Bengals, I'm not super afraid of that. And then Lions and Packers. So I think Josh Dobbs is more than serviceable if he's out there. I certainly like him more than Love. I like him more than Baker. And I think he's in that same conversation as Wilson and Watson. I think he deserves that respect, especially when you add in Justin. Like you're just dropping Justin Jefferson into that fucking offense now, probably this week, if not the week after. So would I start Josh Dobbs or Watson the rest of the way? I think it's matchup based, but I think I trust Josh Dobbs more than I trust Watson. Go Bills. I picked up Carr over Dobbs. That's fair. So Dobbs, I'm guessing, is just not even available right now. If that's the case, then yeah, I would go Watson. I think you're fine. But if Dobbs is out there, I think I might trust Dobbs more than I trust Watson. I don't trust Watson to play through anything, right? Like he tweaked his ankle, he played through in the game, that's fine. What's to say he doesn't wake up with a different attitude, you know? Yeet, what's up? Starter scored 115, bench scored 120. Love it. Isn't that the best? So nice. Do you have like Noah Brown on your bench and people like that too? Just sucks. It absolutely sucks. I navigated that relatively well this week. The week before, though, that's where I was at. It's a nightmare. It's annoying, but it is what it is. Going back to the trending players on Sleeper, we'll work through the top 5-ish here. Josh Dobbs, by the way, 6th most trending player, 87,000 pickups over the past week, or the past day, rather. Rostered in 59% of Sleeper fantasy leagues. Definitely go see if he's out there, though. I think he can be started the rest of the way. And he's certainly, again, as good of a bye week fill-in as you can get. Number 4 most trending player, Devin Singletary, running back for Houston right now. Devin Singletary owned in only 54% of leagues. He exploded this week, obviously. 30 carries, 150 yards. He has the Cardinals, then the Jags, the Broncos. Dameon Pierce has been not good this year. Not good whatsoever. He's been out, obviously, the past couple of games. But I think Devin Singletary's done enough to earn the presence of a committee, if you want to say that. Like, I think he's earned a role. I don't think it's the Dameon Pierce show when he comes back. I think Devin Singletary has shown that he can add a spark to this offense. So he might be flex value the rest of the way when Dameon Pierce comes back. Again, what is that worth to you if you already have a solid flex, if you already have a solid running back on your bench as well? Maybe Singletary's not a guy you need to pick up, but not bad. Not bad. Again, I think I'd rather have Devin Singletary than Keaton Mitchell. That's going to be a sin to say for some people, but Singletary's got a bigger role. And he's performing pretty well, and he's still in a good offense. I like Devin Singletary quite a bit. Luke. I dropped Dobbs when he was still with the Cardinals, and with Kyler coming back, thought he wasn't worth keeping, and I needed a starting quarterback, so I picked up Carr. Yeah. I mean, no one predicted Dobbs would be traded to the Vikings, including Dobbs. Apparently, he was told like the day before that he's not getting traded. He's still the starter. Not only are you not the starter, you're gone. But I think greener grass where he's at. Yeet had Hawkinson, Devontae Montgomery, Brian Robinson, and Amari on your bench? Jesus. I mean, that's a big-ass league then. I mean, I've been saying it for a long time, and certainly since Dobbs has gone to the Minnesota, TJ Hawkins is my tight end too, rest of season. Said that for a couple of weeks, not changing now. So As if you don't have Travis Kelce, I think you need to be starting TJ Hawkinson. Just so you know. Just so you know. For the other guys, I could see benching them. I certainly benched Amari Cooper. He shouldn't have done well, to be honest. He really shouldn't have. Luke, should I offer Ken Walker, whose upcoming schedule's tough, for Sam Howell? That's interesting. I have Lawrence, Carr. My team has been anchored down by Lawrence all season. Yeah. I certainly think you need an upgrade. I think you can get more than Sam Howell for Ken Walker, though. You should be able to. I don't think his value's dropped that much. He is still considered. I mean, I think the consensus, I rank at Fantasy Pros, obviously. I think the consensus at Fantasy Pros still had Walker as a low-end RB1 this past week. I didn't, but I think the consensus did. So I think at worst, his value is a running back 2 right now. And I think you can get more than Sam Howell for a running back 2. But I like your thought process for sure. Obviously, we've said here as well, don't like Ken Walker's upcoming schedule. Don't like where his snaps are at this current moment. Battling through some injuries. Don't like that. So I like selling Ken Walker, even though you're not selling high, you're certainly selling low. I don't mind selling low, but I'm not selling for pennies. I'm not giving him away, and that's what it feels like. If that person you would be trading with is like, if that's where they're at with his value, maybe throw Lawrence in with it, maybe throw Carr in with it, just see if that adds anything, because you're trading for Sam Howell, you're starting Sam Howell, right? So who gives a fuck? If you want to throw one of them in and see if you can get something better in return, cool. But overall, you should be able to get more than Sam Howell for Ken Walker, more than a mid-tier quarterback 1 for a running back 2. Keep trying, like where your head's at, like trading for Howell, like trading with Walker. The value is just not even there, in my opinion. You can get a little bit better. We went through the top 4. We also went with number 6 in the trending players. Let's go to number 5. Trenton Irwin. Obviously, somebody we talked about on the ranking show last week. I love Trenton Irwin whenever one of the top 2 or the outside receivers for the Bengals are out. He always steps up. He always has, the snaps, and then he steps up really well. Only 2 catches, but he did go for 54 yards and a touchdown. Did he have a run as well? No, he returned. He had an 8-yard return. So if your league, counts return yardage, he added a little bit for you there. He has Baltimore on a short week. T. Higgins, I can't imagine, is going to be back. Not the easiest matchup, but obviously the attention is going to be on Jamar Chase. So Trenton Irwin's a guy you can pick up and play at a wide receiver 3, I believe, this week. That's where I would put him. I think you can trust him. I think you can trust him at wide receiver 3. I don't think he's a high end or anything, but if you're desperate, he's only owned in 13% of sleeper fantasy leagues. So he's probably out there for you. If you're really struggling at wide receiver, pick him up, start him. And I think you could probably do worse. But I mean, I don't know how many times I got to say it. I said it, obviously hosts of the ranking shows, usually myself, Luke, and Trevor. I don't know how many times I need to say it to Trevor. There's no reason to ever own Tyler Boyd. Ever, 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 ever. If one of the top top wide receivers for Cincinnati goes down, Tyler Boyd's role doesn't change. He doesn't step up. He doesn't do anything. Tyler Boyd's Tyler Boyd. If one of those guys goes down, he's usurped by one of the other 2 wide receivers and maybe the rookie eventually in future seasons here. But yeah, Trenton Irwin, more valuable than Tyler Boyd, in my opinion, when either Chase or Higgins are out. Seems like Higgins is out this week. You could do worse than him. Luke has CMC and Pacheco, maybe Walker and Lawrence Carr for Chain and Howell. The person does need a running back for week 13, as his best running backs are on bye that week. You're rolling the dice with Chain. You're pitching this to the wrong person. I hate that Miami backfield. I hate the committee. Like, what's A-Chain's role? I'm fine with betting on it. I'm fine with betting that A-Chain somehow has a role, right? He has a role, but like, I'm fine with betting that he has a large enough role to be fantasy relevant. That's fine. If that's where your risk is at, go ahead. But like, my confidence level A-Chain is like a 10%. I mean, there's still Mostert. There's still Jeff Wilson. Whatever you want to say about Jeff Wilson, he has a role, unfortunately. And then there's A-Chain. So I think, obviously, you're not playing that. You're not going to be playing A-Chain over Pacheco and McCaffrey, but still, you're essentially, yeah, I don't think I would do that either, personally. It kind of depends on what your full team is, but like, you're looking at your team, what you're trying to do, you're saying your team's good, and you're just trying to upgrade that quarterback position. Okay, maybe you upgraded that quarterback for Howell, but unless your flex is an absolute fucking banger, then I don't know. I'd like to still have a decent flex, because I'm assuming you're starting Walker in your flex and he's just been shit. That's my guess. And I don't think that changes really if you put A-Chain there. I think it's still going to be shit more often than not, unfortunately. So I'm looking for a little bit more stability in your return for that trade. That's where I'm at. We talked about the top 6 guys for trending. Let's talk about the next 3 quickly, because they are all players I wrote down. I was just writing down players as I laid in bed last night. Like, who are the players we need to talk about? This is one of the top pickups of the week. He's listed at 7th. I've seen a lot of places really like him, really pitch that he's the number 1 pickup, yada, yada, yada. Picked up in 63% of leagues, or 63,000 leagues over the past day. Owned in 63% of leagues as well. Trey McBride, obviously, Kyler Murray comes back. Trey McBride goes off. 8 catches, 131. I love Trey McBride. I've been touting up Trey McBride since before he was drafted. Went to Arizona. I was a little bummed by that, because I don't want to cheer for the Cardinals and don't love Kyler Murray. And there's another tight end there. And that's kind of my point right now. I like Trey McBride. I knew he would be good with the majority role. How much longer does he have that role? Like, Zach Ertz is going to be coming back, I believe, week 12. Let me look. Yeah, Ertz is projected back week 12. He's out with a quad injury right now, which, that's certainly not season ending. Has Trey McBride done enough to be the starter going forward? I think that's fair. That's more than fair, right? The Cardinals aren't going anywhere this season. They may as well grow the chemistry with the young guys, may as well get the young guy more snaps so he's more experienced. I get all of that. But if Zach Ertz comes back, is Zach Ertz just going to sit on the bench? I don't think so. So the fact that Trey McBride's playing all these snaps right now, Zach Ertz is going to come back. He's one of the only people who already has a chemistry with Kyler Murray. He's going to see snaps. He's going to see targets. And that takes away from Trey McBride. So for the people of the mindset, and there's a lot in the fantasy community right now, that Trey McBride's a pickup and start rest of season, I don't think that's the case. I wish it was. I don't think it is. You got him against Houston this week. That's fine. Cool. Start him. Then he's got the Rams and Steelers, where he may be splitting snaps, and then he has a bye, and then he has the 49ers. So there's a chance he goes from, ooh, cool, starter this week, and then nothing. There's a chance that's the case. Do I want that? No. I think it's a 50-50 shot that's what it is, though. Like, it's a 50-50 chance that he's pretty close to irrelevant starting in week 12. And irrelevant in that you're splitting tight end targets and snaps. Like, he's still going to play a bunch of snaps for the team. He's still going to have a big role on the team. But if he doesn't have the majority role, Is he still valuable? That's where I'm at. Is he worth the risk? Possibly. If you have a bench spot, fine. If you have another tight end option, fine. Just don't assume that McBride is the lock and load tight end one for you rest of season, just because I don't think that's necessarily the case. That's it. So if you have a fab bid for your waivers, bid according to that. Certainly hype him up to your league mates, because if your league mates can spend a shit ton of money for someone who's starting for them for 1 week, that would be awesome. Play the mind games there. But unfortunately, Zach Ertz's return is on the horizon, it looks like. And, we've seen how this team operates with both of them healthy, unfortunately. Browner, Olave is on bye. Is Amari a good replacement? He's on waivers. Yeah, go for it. I mean, Amari Cooper, I hated this week. And I stand by my assessment of that. I hated him against the Ravens. He went off. He certainly has shown a decent connection with, Deshaun Watson. They play who? The Broncos this week? If that's the case, he's probably matched up with Surtain, right? No, he's got the Steelers. So yeah. I think you can pick him up and play him. I'm curious to know how big your league is. He's owned in 96% of sleeper leagues, so crazy if he's out there in anything bigger than an 8. What's up, Stoof? Hopefully you got your wins this week. Hopefully you good. Who else was trending that I want to talk about? Brandon Cooks. Again, what's my level of confidence? Brandon Cooks rest of way close to 0, but 9 catches, 173 yards on a touchdown. Maybe they figured it out. Maybe he's figured it out. Maybe something clicked. The light switch has been flipped. Who knows? Maybe you just need that get right game against an absolute dog shit team to start feeling it. He's owned in only 49% of leagues because he's been terrible. He's been dropped in, half the leagues he was owned in, because I'm sure he was close to 100% owned to start the year. But again, if you have a bench spot, if you're weak at wide receiver, whatever it may be, maybe Brandon Cooks is the wide receiver 3 for you the rest of the way. The schedule is certainly, nothing short of perfect, right? He's got the Panthers, Washington, Seahawks, the Eagles, and again, he's the number 2. That's great. The Eagles, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Lions. What a schedule. Brandon Cooks could be absolutely phenomenal for you rest of season, or he could be an absolute dud and never do anything the rest of the year. Truly, that's the risk. I have no analysis here. Like, what it is. Should Brandon Cooks be good for the Cowboys? 1,000%. 1,000%. Should he have a week-to-week role of this size? Essentially, he got 10 targets. Should he see 7 targets every single week? Yes. Will he? I don't know. It's hard for me to predict that, but hopefully he does. He is certainly worth a speculative pickup if he's out there. This guy, 8-team league, that makes sense. But let's just say Browner here was in a 10 to 12 team league. Olave on bye. Amari Cooper is not going to be available in those leagues. If you needed somebody for a bye week replacement, maybe pick up Brandon Cooks and start him against the Panthers. There's a chance you do that. In a perfect world, you're picking him up, stashing him on his bench to see if there's any sort of consistency there, but not everyone has that luxury. So, hopefully he's someone to look at. Stoof, Wednesday you told me Quentin Johnston would score. Good. I don't remember that, but I know on Thursday I said I like Quentin Johnston and people argued with me. So you weren't there to back me up, but hell of a prediction. I certainly started him. I will say though, Quentin Johnston lost me a lot of money because I had him in a parlay, big parlay. He's the only thing that missed. I think he had to hit 40 yards, and I think he had like 38, right? I know he was like 1 or 2 yards off, and everything would have been perfect. He had 34. I said he was going to get 40 plus. I predicted him over 2.5 catches, over 40 yards. 4 catches, 34 yards, and a touchdown. Annoying. Absolutely annoying. But yeah, hey, Quentin Johnston, I don't love him. I don't think he's that great. But, you know, matchup wise, he was going against some shitty ass matchups before this. So it's pretty obvious he was going to do better. So he missed Thursday. That's fair. Usually it's not the same crew Thursdays. Usually I started it this week just because I wanted it to start on time. But usually it's the other two Zachs. It's McAdoo and Espinoza. And I'm usually hanging out in the chat. But yeah. Who else? One more trending player to talk about, I think. Yeah, another Cowboy, actually. Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle is, obviously the handcuff. We talked about him preseason. Then we really haven't said much about him to start the year here. But he's the handcuff to Tony Pollard. And this week, he was getting carries pretty early. Actually, he got 12 carries, 79 yards, and a touchdown. He's getting carries pretty early. And I think it's a product of the matchup. Like, I don't think the Cowboys were scared whatsoever of the Giants. And rightfully so. Like, you don't want to look past any opponent, but if there's one to look past, I think you can look past the Giants. They had absolutely nothing to fear with DeVito at quarterback. Like, he's terrible. That team is a complete disaster. So I think it's a product of the matchup a little bit that Dowdle got early carries, but 12 carries, 79 yards, and a touchdown. What this tells me is that he is still very clearly the handcuff if Tony Pollard does go down. I think Dowdle is going to be the majority guy there, which is valuable. In terms of a week-to-week role, I don't think there is one, but maybe they mix him in and think, Tony Pollard's going to be better in a complementary role. Not necessarily complementary, but in a committee role. Maybe they think Pollard would be better in a rotation a little bit. And if that's the case, then maybe Dowdle has value going forward. And again, I started the stream, we said it early, talking about Keaton Mitchell, and I keep comparing Keaton Mitchell to every running back we talk about. Would I rather own Rico Dowdle or Keaton Mitchell? I think I'd rather own Dowdle. I think Dowdle has a bigger week-to-week role going forward than Mitchell. I think it's comparable for sure. Maybe 1 week Mitchell has 7 touches, and the next week Dowdle has the 7 touches. Like, they're not big week-to-week roles. Obviously, you need Gus Edwards to go down for Mitchell to be trustworthy whatsoever. Obviously, you need Pollard to go down if Dowdle's trustworthy whatsoever. I don't think McCarthy said anything about him, right? No. But I mean, in a game where Tony Pollard again didn't impress, Dowdle kind of did. Worth a speculative ad for sure. Browner, apologies. I didn't read your question right away. Do we like Foreman against Detroit next week? I'm hesitant. Because Khalil Herbert seems pretty 100% that he's going to be back. I want to see that backfield. I want to see how it shakes out before I trust anything there. I think Foreman's been good enough to earn a role. I think the Bears offense is doing all right. So I think there's a chance that Foreman falls in the end zone, but like, it certainly seems like his workload's going to be much smaller going forward. They have to give Herbert the ball at least some. Is Herbert going to retake the majority of the snaps? Is he going to retake the early down work? I don't know. Like, it's so hard to predict because we're dealing with incompetent coaching. So like, it's hard to predict a maniac. It's hard to predict someone who's fucking insane. And that's kind of what we're dealing with in Chicago and many of the other coaching staffs around the league. Like, it's just incompetence. It's coaching malpractice. The Bears are not immune to this. They're not very good. So, do I like him? I guarantee I rank him as a flex, and that's kind of where I'm at, most likely. Wednesday will be the ranking show. Wednesday rankings drop on flurrysports.org. Definitely check them. But that's where I'm guessing I will be ranking him. Stoof, O'Connell, not playing any better than Jimmy except for the one game of his injury. Now Jacoby's fucked. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily want to judge this offense and O'Connell based on our matchup against the Jets. But, like, the issue with the Raiders wasn't Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, I will say that. Kind of surprising that they completely went away from Jimmy Garoppolo. Do I think he's the long-term answer? Obviously, no. And I suppose that's kind of what they're doing. They're saying we're fucked anyways. Let's just see if Aiden O'Connell has... This is the thing. This is the dangerous thing now. Because the 49ers had that situation with Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, 7th round pick, and he turns out to be great because he played a lot of college football. I think there's going to be a lot of teams starting to do this. Like, Aiden O'Connell played a lot of snaps, obviously, at Purdue. Doesn't seem like he's going to be a good player, but now that they're completely out of it, let's give him snaps and see if he's Brock Purdy. Turns out, no. And by the way, Brock Purdy's not that great either, but boy, Aiden O'Connell ain't it, but the Raiders are going to probably just throw him out there to see if some, light switch again gets flipped to see if something's there. But I think he's going to get better. I don't think he's going to be as bad as he was this week. I will say, though, next week's Miami. They got a pass rush. They're going to get on him. Then Kansas City, they're going to blitz the shit out of him. Then it's a bye. Then he's got the Vikings. Vikings are going to blitz the shit out of him. Chargers, they're going to blitz the shit out of him. Chiefs again. But week 17, he's got the Colts. Circle that. There might be a pretty nice Aiden O'Connell week against the Colts. Yeah. I mean, the secondaries he faces aren't necessarily great, but I don't think that's the issue, right? I don't think that's the issue. Devontae Adams can get open against absolutely anybody. It's that whole throwing under pressure thing. Jimmy was sustaining Jacoby and Devontae to a degree. I almost think that McDaniels was sustaining Jacoby. I don't know. Obviously, Jacoby Myers would be better with Jimmy Garoppolo in the lineup, but I don't know what it is. McDaniels loves Jacoby Myers, and without him, it's just not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same. Hopefully, Devontae builds on this and gets force-fed the ball because he is so good. He is still a top 3 wide receiver in football, and it saddens me that people were even questioning that. But they were. That's it for sleeper fantasy trending players. Let's go to some players I wrote down. I wrote down McBride, talked about him, Dobbs, Singletary, Chandler, Cooks, Noah Brown. We talked about Noah Brown. Yeah, we did. Trenton Irwin. Okay, here we go. Demario Douglas. Talked about him for a couple weeks now. He continues to be an absolute stud. Patriots are on bye this week, so I think there's going to be people dropping him. Certainly people not going to pick him up. But he's the majority leader at wide receiver for the Patriots. He's performed extremely well. Targets of 6, 7, 7, and 9 the past 4 weeks. Has a bye this week, so people aren't going to rush to pick him up. Then he has the Giants, the Chargers, the Steelers, the Chiefs, the Broncos. Not bad. How high is his touchdown upside? Not very high. But I think his targets and yards will sustain that wide receiver 3, wide receiver floor value for you. So depending on the size of your league, I think Demario Douglas is someone you can trust. And if you're in a keeper league, maybe pick him up. Who knows? I like Demario Douglas quite a bit, though. He's solid. He's a really good player. Next, Zach Charbonnet. 3 weeks in a row, the rookie has outsnapped Ken Walker. Ken Walker obviously dealing with some injuries. Also, game script has certainly leaned the way of Charbonnet. But snaps of 59, 55, 52 in terms of percentage. 6 carries, 44 yards, 5 targets this past week. I don't love the matchups going forward. We talked about it with Ken Walker. He faces the 49ers 2 times in the next 4 weeks. He has the Eagles and Titans after that. But if you're in a deep league, Charbonnet could end up being a deep league flex for you. I don't hate it. Someone to absolutely have on your radar. Rostered in 53% of leagues. Is he he's technically a handcuff too if Walker gets hurt worse. But yeah, don't love him, don't hate him. Someone to have, but someone who I'm guessing is unowned. I didn't look up his ownership percentage. I'm guessing he's not really owned, especially coming off a bye. Rostered in 25% of leagues. I think there's a chance the best handcuff in fantasy football right now is Kenneth Walker. We've seen what DeAndre Swift can do. We saw Kenneth Walker start week 1, look pretty good then. If DeAndre Swift gets hurt, which certainly isn't something that would surprise a ton of people, if DeAndre Swift gets hurt, it's going to be the Kenneth Gainwell show. Like, they're not going to bring Rashad Penny in there to see a bunch of snaps. They're not going to put Boston Scott in there to see a ton of snaps. He'll certainly have a role, but he won't see a ton. Kenneth Gainwell is a really solid player. If you have a spot on your bench and you're looking for just a handcuff, someone who could rise to be a starter at some point the rest of the year, Kenneth Gainwell is the guy. It's certainly one of the better handcuffs in fantasy football right now. Seeing around a third of the snaps right now. So again, week to week role, I don't think he's there. I'm not wanting to start him whatsoever if that backfield is healthy. But if Swift goes down, Kenneth Gainwell is going to be a borderline running back 1. So definitely go pick him up. Browner, Connor, rest of season. I like him. The biggest thing with him, and he should have had a touchdown this week. That also fucked me. But he went down because of time. He made the heady play there. One could argue scoring the touchdown would have put the game out of reach as well, but whatever. It is what it is. But rest of season, he's a running back too. I think the Cardinals' offense is decent enough where they're going to move the ball, and if they move the ball, you're just looking for Connor to fall in the end zone. But then, oh, by the way, like, who's challenging him for snaps? DeMercado? Who fucking cares? Like, he's going to see carries. 16 carries, 73 yards this past week. Relatively efficient. I could see him, being around those numbers every single week, to be completely honest. Oh, apologies. Dealing with a sickness here. But he's going to be around those numbers every single week. It's just, does he fall in the end zone or not? That's the difference between low-end flex and high-end RB2, essentially. So rest of season, I like him. You should own him. I had the decision this week. It's Dynasty, so I'm hanging on to both, obviously. But do I start Najee Harris or James Conner? And I think that specific situation, do I start Conner or Najee? I think that's where his value is. Which one do you start? And to me, with players like that, it's always who has the higher touchdown upside. And that's kind of where I'm going to play it. And more often than not, I feel like James Conner is going to have more touchdown upside than Najee Harris. Ralph, I'm dropping Madison. I've had enough. I feel you. It depends on what's out there, but hey, like, you can't control concussion. Certainly seems like he's out this week. We talked about this earlier. Out this week, most likely, because of how long it's taking people to get through the protocol. Week after that, he's got the Bears. Week after that's a bye. Certainly a chance he's out for those 2 games. If he's not 100% for the Bears, they may sit him, bring him back after the bye, which means Madison may not play for the next 3 weeks. And at that point, what's more valuable to you? A roster spot that you can add people, have a little flexibility there, or Madison? So, yeah, don't mind. I wouldn't drop Alexander Madison, but I can't blame you whatsoever. Browner, ouch. I'm not sure what I said. I can't remember. You get really good workload for someone coming off IR. James Conner. Yeah. I mean, he looks healthy. He looks good to go. For real, Connor not scoring shows they don't trust their defense. I mean, that's fair too. And can't blame them in less than a minute left. I guess everyone has seen those moments, right? Like, what was it? Todd Gurley gets drug into the end zone when he was a member of the Falcons. He gets drug into the end zone. He didn't even want to score, but he gets drug in the end zone. I think the Falcons end up losing that game. Something like that. Everyone's seen those moments. Everyone remembers those moments, except for me. It's a little cloudy, apparently. But still, at some point, like, just go up. Go up. What's more likely? That they block a field goal and you lose, or they drive the full length of the field to score a touchdown and win? T. Higgins next week. Do we expect a game like last week coming off injury? The Bengals play on Thursday, so short week. They play the Ravens. I'm guessing T. Higgins is out, so I don't think he plays in week 11. If we're talking week 12, Higgins, Bengals, who they played in 12? They play the Steelers in week 12. I mean, the hamstring injury doesn't sound great, to be completely honest. If he comes back week 12, I'm still going to pump the brakes a little bit. Just looking at his numbers, I think he's going to be more week 8 than week 9. 5 catches, 69 yards in week 8. I think that's more likely. But I think he gets better as the season progresses. I think he will return to that strong form. But yeah, I don't think he plays this week, unfortunately. Stu, Cardinals are 1-8. What does it matter? I agree. And as someone who bet the Cardinals under, I did an alternative bet, them winning under 3.5 wins. If they end up finishing with fucking 4 wins, I'm going to be pissed off. So stupid. They better not. Who else? Did I write down anybody? Oh, yeah, I got quite a bit of people here. Speaking of that Cardinals team, we'll stick on that. A player, again, talked about a bunch in the preseason. Talked about, I think, last week some as well. I certainly did. I talked about him. I liked him as a pickup. Michael Wilson, rookie there. He's someone who dropped in the draft because of health. That's the only reason. He's been healthy this year, essentially. He missed that week 9 game. That's about it. He comes back. Kyler Murray comes back. He saw 6 targets. It's not going to sound the alarms for anybody. 3 catches, 34 yards. Like, that seems like nothing, but him seeing 6 targets from Kyler Murray is great news. And again, we'll see how this Cardinals offense progresses, but it would not be surprising whatsoever if he ends the season with wide receiver 3 value. You know, unfortunately, he has a week 14 bye, so a super late bye could fuck up your fantasy season a little bit, but week 13 against the Steelers, that's a matchup he could win. He has the 49ers in week 15, but then he has the Bears in week 16, Eagles in week 17. Have Michael Wilson on your radar, owned in 21% of sleeper fantasy leagues. Not a must pick up, but if you're desperate, if you're in a deep league, he is someone who should be on your radar, as is the rookie in New Orleans, A.T. Perry. Someone deep league have on your radar. If you're in Dynasty, definitely pick him up. 6'5", hasn't done jack shit. He's played in each of the last 3 games. 12% of the snaps, 25% of the snaps. This past week at Minnesota, Michael Thomas leaves the game. And everyone's like, oh shit, including myself. Oh shit, here we go. Rashid Shaheed, the time has come. Do what you got to do. But no, A.T. Perry comes in and plays that Michael Thomas role. 6'5" rookie, 24-year-old rookie as well, by the way. He saw 84% of the snaps, only 4 targets, but 2 catches, 38 yards, and a touchdown. If Michael Thomas misses time and A.T. Perry continues to operate in that role, and by the way, they have a bye this week, so we'll see what happens. But if he's the big target that the Saints really could use in that red zone too. A 6'5" slot could be dangerous. So again, sleeper, pick him up. Super deep leagues, someone to have on your radar for sure. Just want you guys to be aware that A.T. Perry is someone there's a chance you could trust going forward. Jameis loves his big boys. Jameis loves a lot of things. Interesting to see how long Carr's out, though. And by the way, I mean, if Carr's out, maybe Taysom Hill's value goes up now, too. Stupid situation. Final player, I think. Yep, final player I wrote down. Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer has been dominating snaps for Vegas since McDaniel's exit. About fucking time. So, we talked about Trey McBride, second-year tight end. I like him a lot, but I didn't love his situation. Don't know what his role is going to be once Zach Ertz comes back. Michael Mayer, last 3 weeks, 91%, 88%, 88% of the snaps. What's that resulted in? I mean, not a lot. 2 targets, and then last night he got 5 targets, 3 catches, 19 yards. Big touchdown catch. Moss the guy, kind of. He's uber talented. He's a really good tight end. It's just, can this offense be efficient enough to support him as a consistent fantasy weapon? I don't know. I really don't know. But I think all the potential is there for him to emerge as a decent fantasy weapon. Like if Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback right now, I would be saying you need to pick up Michael Mayer. Right now, I'm saying like if you have an empty roster spot and you're struggling at tight end, maybe pick him up. Opportunity leads to productivity in fantasy football. 88% of the snaps, 91% of the snaps. Certainly the opportunity is there. Will it lead to productivity? I think eventually it could. Miami, Kansas City, by Minnesota, Chargers, Chiefs, Colts. You got to like the matchups going forward. If they can get some sort of competency, can't speak. They just need competent quarterback play, and he's going to be pretty good. So, again, deep league, or if you just have an empty roster spot, Michael Mayer's a guy. He could end up winning fantasy leagues, man. He could. I don't say that lightly either. Like, the talent is there. He just needs to. Well, he has this. Talent is there. He has the snaps. He just needs the targets and on targets. Hopefully he gets them. I mean, 3 catches and a touchdown against the Jets. Worth mentioning, worth the respect. We'll see what he does this week, but pick him up if you can. Stoof is Kyle Phillips, a PPR flex. Love Kyle Phillips. As long as Treylon Burks is out, I think he can be. He's kind of in that Khalil Shakir, obviously talked about both of them at the same time during the draft process. Kind of in that Shakir area. The Titans, they've been trailing, they've been bad, and they're not a good football team. So end of games, they have to spread it out. They can't just stack it and run it with Derrick Henry because it doesn't work. Their offensive line isn't good enough. So when they actually have to spread it out, Kyle Phillips is on the field. He's the easy target, running some easy stuff underneath. He does go up the seam a little bit, get lost, smaller guy. So PPR flex, it would have to be pretty deep league. But as long as Burks is out, I don't even know there can't be a time frame for Burks to return, right? Like last I saw him, he was on a fucking stretcher. Concussion, did not clear league protocol this week. Yeah, no shit. Yeah. Again, he's not somebody I'd be rushing to pick up, but I love the talent. He's a better player than Treylon Burks. And again, that's not a new take by me. You can go back to last year, me saying that before they even stepped on the fucking field. He should be playing over Treylon Burks. That won't happen because they have more invested in Burks, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Is he a PPR flex? Maybe in a 16 team. And as long as Burks is out. How many snaps did he get last week, though? I know he didn't do jack shit until the end of the game. Yeah, 35% of the snaps. Hard to trust. Hard to trust because he's just not on the field in 2 wide. 5 targets, though, back to back. Boom, boom. Plays the Jaguars next week. Theoretically, they're trailing against the Jags, which is great. Then he has the Panthers and the Colts after that. Don't like them as much in those matchups. Titans may actually win those games. They may actually beat the Jaguars. Jaguars, like, they're only 1 game up in the division, which is insane. I think they're only 2 games ahead of the Titans, which is even more insane. Jaguars need to pick it up. Any other questions before we get out of here? It's a weird week for waivers again. Almost none of the names mentioned are new. There's nobody who I think is a must pick up. I don't think there's anybody who is worthy of blowing all your fab on. There's very few players to get truly excited about, in my opinion. Who are the teams on bye this week? I know the Saints. The Saints, Falcons, Colts, and Patriots. So not a ton of fantasy relevance, honestly. Quarterbacks, you're probably not hurting with any of them out. Running backs, we're talking Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, Ramondre Stevenson. So you could be struggling a little bit there. Wide receivers, we got Drake London, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, Pop. Got Pop Douglas and Chris Olave. And then tight ends, nothing really. I suppose Kyle Pitts, Jonnu Smith. And if you're one of the people who have been trusting Taysom Hill, I suppose. But not a ton. Not a ton. I don't think there's the bye weeks like this past week that will make you freak out about anything. Overall injuries, I don't think there were really any injuries, or at least many injuries to this week that are suddenly making people freak out about a situation. Maybe Madison, I suppose, but not a ton. Is what it is. Is what it is. If you have more questions, definitely drop them in the comments. Ask them over on Fantasy Football by Committee. I created this thing. I didn't even fucking use it until now. So let's just end the show with this. Underdog Fantasy. If you've ever played on Underdog Fantasy, if you haven't played on Underdog Fantasy, I should say, now is a great time to do so. New features dropping as soon as this week, possibly. Something I got to play test this weekend. Love Underdog Fantasy. DFS app or site. Obviously, scan the QR code there. Use promo code Flurry when you sign up. You get double your deposit up to $100. So immediately, $100. Double your deposit before even winning a pick. But you can do 2 big features right now. There's drafts. Obviously, Underdog's known for their best ball drafts. I'm sure there'll be more best ball drafts coming up right now. But right now, daily drafts. The best part of fantasy football season is draft day, let's be honest. You can jump in live drafts with other people, other customers, and draft teams for NBA, for NFL, hockey, all kinds of stuff. And then there's also pick'em, so you can play the pick'em props, string them together, and win up to more than 20 times your entry. In a typical one, you get 20 times your entry for a 5 out of 5. But then there's also Scorchers. I created one this past weekend for 100 times, and I missed it by one. And you won't guess, you won't believe it. Who fucking fucked me over? James Conner needed to score a touchdown. What did he do? He went down. But Underdog Fantasy, super fun. They have pick'em props on there and in-game props. That's where the money is to be made, in my personal opinion. But go over there, use promo code Flurry, double your deposit. And I think especially during NFL playoffs, especially during NBA season, I think we're going to be doing some Underdog promoted shows, talking about some of the best plays. But we're also going to be hosting our own contests as well. So you'll be able to jump in and play with myself and for sure Luke. Luke and I are on Underdog every day hitting it. There's flash promos. If an NBA player gets ruled out, I'm telling you, you need to have your notifications on for this. Let's just say, yesterday, so LeBron was ruled out of the game, right? Ruled out for the game. What Underdog does is a flash promotion. They freeze Anthony Davis's line. So you are, for the next 30 minutes, able to bet the over on Anthony Davis's line, assuming the same exact projection that he was with LeBron. And then after those 30 minutes, obviously his projection is going to go way up because he's expected to score more points, get more rebounds, because his usage is going to be higher without LeBron, right? But for those 30 minutes, you still get to pick the over with him there. Obviously, I did it. Obviously, Luke did it. Make a bunch of money that way. Underdog is doing these promotions all the time, these flash promos all the time. Go get it right now. Tons of money to be made over there. Tons of money. Oh, it puts a little link in the chat when I do that, huh? Interesting. If I click it, does that bring me to Underdog? It does. Interesting. Look at Restream go. Love it. Love to see it. But we will be back. I will be back probably Wednesday night for the ranking show. Luke, Trevor, and myself going over the week 11 rankings. Obviously, if you have more trade questions, drop them in the YouTube chat here. Please subscribe and please comment. Just comment that you're here. Comment that if you have questions, comment anything. When you comment in the YouTube comments, I'm going to be honest, it helps with the algorithm. You can say whatever you want. You can say the word algorithm. I don't care. But please subscribe. Please comment. Please promote the channel. Big things coming. And we will be back Wednesday night. See you then. Shout out you.